Hello everyone, thank you for watching my YouTube. This is Gary York, True Prison Stories. I just saw an article that came out recently about how inmates are saying that their cell is their private home and they have the right to masturbate in their private home. And let's talk about that. I understand that they do have to have some privacy. There's no doubt about that. That is their cell. That's where they're going to live until their sentence is over. But I think most of us know that a lot of the inmates will masturbate during certain times of the day to ensure that a female officer is present. And when that occurs, in my book, that is a sexual assault or a wrongful sexual act, no matter if you're in your private cell or not. Now, we know that inmates wait for count time. Many of them do. If an inmate is masturbating at 3 in the morning and it's not my count time, I could care less, to be honest with you. But if it's count time and the inmate knows, all inmates know when every count is. Every one of them knows. And if an inmate waits for count time for a female officer to come by their cell to conduct a count and they are masturbating, then that is not your privacy. You know it's count time. Let me give you an example. If someone comes to my home to visit me at my house and I open the front door when they ring my doorbell and I masturbate, please, I've committed a crime. I'm going to jail. So if your cell is your home, do it as if you were at home on the street in private when nobody is around. Because I think that the inmates are getting away with a lot of criminal mischief when it comes to sexual things during count times. Take the county jails, for example. There's even more opportunity there, because in the county jail, you have med pass with the nurses and the officers, going cell to cell with med pass on the night shift. On day shift, they'll come to the front, but on night shift, we do a lot of cell to cell med passes. We also have officers doing count cell to cell much more in the jail. One time we had an inmate tell a female lieutenant, hey lieutenant, I need to talk to you, please come to my cell. The female lieutenant said, pop the cell door, and the inmate masturbated right onto the female lieutenant. So much for your private home, your cell being your private home. You misuse your private home, you should get criminal charges. And the problem we're having is some of the smaller counties are still prosecuting for masturbating toward a female officer or on a female officer for sexual assault and other things. However, a lot of the big counties that have a lot of cases flowing through are just ignoring our problem, and they're not prosecuting these cases, and the inmates know it. So they say, what have I got to lose? I'll catch a disciplinary report, I may go to disciplinary confinement, but heck, I got my jollies off, I did my thing. I did what I wanted. So now we're going to even go a step further and say I'm allowed to masturbate in my cell. That's my private home. Well, that's not the case. When you do it improperly during count and other times. We're not going to be able to watch you 24 hours a day, but inmates know. I've interviewed inmates for this same incident. And I've actually looked at the inmate and said, look, you knew she was coming around at count time. You know exactly what's going on. And the inmate actually laughed, and off record laughed and said, yeah, I knew, but they won't admit it on record, of course, because, they don't want another charge coming in. So I'm having a little bit of trouble with inmates demanding that the prison cell is their private home. So if they masturbate and an officer sees them masturbate, whether it be male or female, there's no problem with that. Get away, it's my private cell. Well, if you premeditate the times you want to masturbate, then we need to premeditate our investigation and send it up to the state attorneys, and we need to do a disciplinary report. Something has to be done. We cannot get to a point in the prison system where we allow inmates to feel they have the right to just freely go around and masturbate. You don't do it on the street. We don't expect you to do it in prison. Another example, my wife was at a work release center working. Daytime, noon count. Work release center is a little more of an open dorm type area. We're trying to get the inmates prepared for release onto the street so they can fit back into society. And there's 3 or 4 men to a room. The inmate waits till count time, and my wife goes by and is counting the inmates, and there he is. Right when she walks in, he starts to masturbate. She paid him no attention, went right through, finished the count, called it in, called the main prison and said, "We got one, we're sending back behind the fence." A male officer went down and he had to do the duffel bag drag. They packed him up and shipped him back behind the prison fence. If you cannot act decent enough at a work release center, then apparently you cannot act decent on the streets. So he lost his work release privileges, the job he had, the money he was making, because he cannot conduct himself as a decent human being. Just another example. So go ahead, play your games, but we need to take a strong stand against inmates sexually assaulting, throwing semen, masturbating, men and women both. And I just had to vent that out today because it's getting bad. We're starting to let them do too many things, and the sexual misconduct is starting to run wild. If you like this YouTube, please subscribe. Give us your thoughts at the bottom. Just a short video on my thoughts. Thank you.